Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It's 2019. It is January 2nd. We took the first off on the 31st, the last day of the year. We had a little bit of trading on Wall Street. We had a little bit of anticipation, and here we go. It is time for the next level of the game to start. I'm back with Chris P. Bacon, live recording anyways.
I'm live. I'm still alive.
Still alive, live without a net. And I want to raise a toast to everybody. Thank you for sticking with us. Welcome to 2019. I really think the shitstorm is coming. Thank you, Chris, for sharing. Thank you, everybody at Patreon. You guys are awesome. I'm enjoying a Glenlivet 18-year-old Scotch. It's like mother's milk to me. And what do you got on your end, Chris?
Well, actually, it's my favorite, but it's actually, I'm drinking Wild Turkey 101. It's the favorite of everyone that sleeps under an underpass. And I'm drinking, actually, this is an amazingly good buy for the price. I think it tastes great. But I'm drinking the cheap stuff in honor of those who are possibly going to lose their shirt in the market next year. How's that?
I hear you.
Well, and should we also add right away? Don't take any investment advice from two drinkers on YouTube.
Right. None of this qualifies. We're now disqualified as making any pretense at offering investment advice. So 2018 was quite a year. We went into 2018, and it looked like things were pretty smooth. Trump wasn't able to do anything against all of the evil criminals, but the year plodded along, and then at the end of the year, cracks started to appear in the ice, Chris. There was social problems. We started seeing the stock market coming apart. Politics went to hell after the election. So here we are in 2019 looking forward. Do you see any way out of basically shit hitting the fan? Do you see a way that we can get out of political trouble? Or do you think we're going to just head right into it?
Well, I mean, there's like you said, the year started off pretty hopeful, optimistic, and we can't really have this conversation unless we kind of talk about the markets, because the market is the psychological pulse of the nation. And we all have our own individual ways of dealing with that, either being completely out of it, hedging it, whatever. So, you look every day and you study it, because this is where your future, your current income is stored for a rainy day. So you can't talk about anything without being in context with the markets. And so studying those, what appeared to me was that of course, we had the rate increases, 2 of them, which rattled the markets big time. And that seemed to kind of keep things steady until it didn't. And it's like they just pushed just a little too far. And that precipitated these gaps of 500, down 500, down 500. The first half of the year to me was contrary to what I expected. I expected this kind of market decline much sooner. I don't know. What was your notion at the beginning of the year? What did you think was going to happen?
Well, I think the country was holding its breath until the elections. The market seemed to handle those rate increases, but the way the election turned out, the midterm in 2018, after that, I saw a decided downturn on everything. I was very fearful of the market coming down and being used as a political ploy. But since the election, the Democrats won the House, not the Senate, and they're in a position to cause all kinds of political trouble, which I think has economic consequences, social consequences. And boy, oh boy, I think 2019 is going to be like the year of fireworks. We're continuing to head down that path.
And the fuse to the fireworks has been lit, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The fuse has been lit, and like I was saying, I cannot, me personally, and some people call me a pessimist, and some people think I'm an optimist. I can't see a way for it to be put out, for the fuse to be stopped, to turn it around. So I looked politically and I go, from a dispassionate political perspective, the Democrats and Republicans are just at each other's throats. And the consequences are going to be stalemate and lots of accusations in Washington, which is going to disturb the economic markets, and it's going to disturb the social discourse. And I think both of those things have portend bad things for us.
Well, you asked me what I thought could turn it around, or possibly what could possibly remediate what's going on now. And I do think that at least a straw man of an agreement with China will be probably, that's got to be like the last thing that they can pull out of their bag of tricks at this point. We had a bunch of fake outs, like Trump would say, yeah, we got a great agreement. And then somebody else say, not so much. And then he'd say things are going well. And they're like, you're not even going to talk to the guy. How can it be going well? So we had a lot of fake outs.
I totally agree. This morning I woke up, I can't even remember what time it was, 2:30 in the morning, Chris. And I probably sent some messages out to people and started bugging people. And I couldn't get back to sleep. It occurred to me that things have never gotten better with China. And it's every time something starts to go bad, they bring out and go, oh, we just signed a deal with China. And it's like a fake out. Everyone gets happy and confident. The market recovers a little. It takes some social, political, legal pressure off of everything. Military pressure lightens. And then it starts to travel down again until they need to all of a sudden say, we've done something right. But you're correct. When they examine what was done, nothing's been done.
Well, I mean, even with an agreement, of course, what will normally happen is some sort of accord will be reached. Both Xi Jinping and Trump will both declare victory. We got what I wanted. We didn't let them push us around. ABC, the whole list of points. And then, but I think that falls flat on afterward. It's kind of like, okay, so basically not much changed. Not much was changing anyway. And now we lack one more diversion to keep us from looking at the realities on the street in the United States, which is too much debt. It is, we have political partisanship and strife. We have, I keep wanting that not to have an economic effect. I'd kind of like have them keep their little disputes in Washington and let it be a sideshow. However, I do think that one side in this argument lusts for power so much that they're willing to pretty much thwart anything good, bad or good that Trump wants to put through in order to mobilize people to the street and ask government for more help. And, there's usually one party that typically provides the goodies, and it would be the liberal or left.
Right. That was really a great way to put it. I like the way you kind of laid that out there. The left is itching for power so bad. Now, typically all politicians are itching for power, but there's a type of desperation on the part of the left that isn't there. And the Republicans, as usual, will do everything they can to throw away a victory and snatch it from the jaws of defeat.
Not only do they sink their own battleship,
Yeah.
but fail to deliver a coherent, clear message about not only the virtues of our liberties and freedoms and the great things that are created through free enterprise, but they also fail to point out very obvious. You have to go to alternative media to find anybody that says, look at Venezuela, look at what has happened. This is the result of socialism. Look at the millions of people killed under Chairman Mao. This is the result of socialism. Look at the people starving North Korea. This is the result of socialism. We cannot go down this route. And I fault almost everybody in the GOP, all the way up to Trump, for not having a philosophically strong message that even young people could understand.
Hell, I understood it when I was young. Liberty, what a great idea. You know, don't leave my money alone, leave my rights in place, give everyone a fair and equal shot at everything. It just makes sense. But yeah, you're right. My entire adult life, I've watched the Republicans squander opportunity, and I've watched Democrats and the leftists just run wild and claim victory at every turn, and then tout how good they are at it. And it's surprising, but here we are in 2019 at the very beginning. The Democrats have the power in the House, and I'm forecasting that unless Trump does something, unless he plays his whole cards, and I bet he's got a lot of whole cards, but he's got to play them. You can't just sit on them. He's got to play them, or the Democrats, I think, are going to run for impeachment fast, right out the gate. I think their energetic attitude is because they're scared to death that he really does have something and that he could really get after him. And so they need to go after Trump right away and start pushing back. And I think it's coming. We're going to have a lot of political stupidity. It's going to destabilize the markets. Already the government's in shutdown mode. And while that scares probably the entitlement class the most because they're afraid they may not get their EBT cards, that's where we're at, right? We're at the beginning of this mess that's coming, and they could drag a lot of social concepts into it and cause dissension among the ranks and between people. And then, but you know, the government's shut down. Where are we going?
Well, the shutdown is a total red herring anyway, because they all get back pay. The EBT people, I mean, if they let it go to the point where they're not paid for a couple of months, or I think next Friday is the first payday that government employees would not get paid. That'll send people to the streets. Okay. That'll send unfortunately, what is it, like 16% of the U.S. is employed by the government. I don't know.
Is it the federal government? The federal government is 16%?
I think so, yes. And, well, no, I'm not going to swear to that. I'm not sure, but I did see that 16% figure. It could be national or state and or state. But I don't know how much of that makes up non-essential services. But anyway, when these things are announced, they might as well just rephrase it and call it paid vacation, right? So they'll get paid. EBT, well, yeah. The people on EBT, they will be made whole. None of this goes away. It's a trick they've pulled out of their hat dozens of times. The difference this time, though, is I don't think Trump harbors any illusions that those are his voters anyway, which makes it extra dangerous for the Democrats to call his bluff.
Right. It would be nice if he had some sort of executive authority to not just furlough their pay or put it off, but rather to say you didn't go to work, and not just the non-essentials, but all government. It would be nice to see him take it to that next level. If you're going to play these games, let's play it and get it on. But I think the Democrats are going to act as if that's what's going on and try and scare their base, scare their entitlement crowds.
Right.
But that's just one component, I think, of what's coming up in 2019. We have the government shutdown on one hand, but we have this call for impeachment. And I've talked to many people, Chris, about impeachment, and they're like, they don't get it. They think that Congress can impeach. And I go, well, impeachment's one thing, and that's easy, but it's the conviction in the Senate. That it's like being indicted and then prosecuted. There's not enough.
Impeachment doesn't mean removal.
Right. A lot of people believe it does, and they don't even think Clinton was impeached. I said, well, Clinton was impeached, but it didn't really stop him. So they can impeach the hell out of Trump all they want, but it doesn't make him a lame duck or an impotent president. I think, in fact, it'll just piss him off.
Yeah, and speaking to, I mean, that's a misunderstanding. And going back to your point about the government shutdown, it doesn't matter whether it's a misunderstanding or not that these people will be paid. Like you said, people on EBT will think that Trump took away my money, my food. And, my babies are starving, on and on. So perception is reality.
Right. Yeah. For the most ignorant among us, it certainly is. Yeah. So it's but can the game be escalated to where those EBT cards are shut off, or where government employees are not paid? How long will they go on this? And then at what point do you think the Democrats will capitulate and give Trump the wall? Because all Trump wants is the wall.
Sad to say, the first Congress sits Thursday, this coming Thursday.
Right.
And the first Congress presided over the Majority Leader Pelosi. I think that she comes out guns blazing. No specific indictments or charges or information yet, but I think she reassures everyone that they're on the march and proposes some dates or implies that very soon she and Adam Schiff and another guy named Nadler in New York, there's about 5 sworn enemies of Trump who, let's just say, this is metaphorically, okay? It might also be literal, but let's just say it's metaphorical. They've all got naked pictures of each other. So we were chatting earlier today, and I'm thinking, holy cow, if they come out with a bunch of nuclear options, this is the one thing about Trump, like him or not, I don't think you want to be on the other side of him in a corner.
Right. He is a New Yorker, and he's going to fight back.
And I think he's got naked pictures of all them.
Yeah, and that's scary to think about.
Yeah. and so especially in some cases, yeah. Okay, so I'll stop using that term, but what I meant is that everybody has the goods on each other in DC. Right. They're all up to no good, right? Right. And I think Trump has some nuclear options he could bring out. And what that spells for the rest of us is, holy shit, who's running this show? Right.
Well, the way I look at it is, if they had anything on Trump, they would have played it during the midterm election in order to try and win more House seats and win the Senate back. Because they can impeach all they want, but they can't remove Trump. They can't even remove his power. So I see actually Trump as the one holding more actual power in this scenario, while the Democrats have a lot of bark and not a lot of bite. But they can try and bite all they want and win in the court of public opinion, using the media, using protests and marches and Antifa and Black Lives Matter and whatever it takes. I think they're going to pull out all the stops in 2019, and we're going to add to this. We saw it start, and this was fascinating. You and I and others were discussing, or you and I and me and others, we've all been discussing the economy, when it's going to start really showing cracks and slowing down, what kind of pressure that's going to put on the government, the Federal Reserve, Wall Street, and the people, and when it really starts. And you and I said, hey, it's not going to really show until sometime mid-month in January. and we'll start getting the fourth quarter reports and start getting some Christmas and holiday shopping reports, and then we'll see it. But lo and behold, before Christmas, it started. And it's like, holy crap, it's actually accelerating faster than even some of us doomsday type thinkers actually believed it could.
Right. And those fourth quarter figures are going to be a lot like the whistling past the graveyard most of the TV talking heads have been doing this quarter. They'll it'll be like, hey, Netflix just rebounded 50 points on a new borrowing. Is that good?
Right.
And everybody's like, oh. And then it's online sales are 10% higher year over year than they were last year. And it's like, yay. Oh, Sears is closing all their stores. It's it's going to be, they're going to fight like hell to put lipstick on the pig for the last quarter that it's even possible. And that last quarter, and what I read when I watch CNBC, Bloomberg, these things that are on all day in front of me, I see their faces. I don't care what they're saying. Their faces say that they're scared as hell.
Right. Yeah. Every year we come out of Christmas, we go through New Year, and I start just as John, the human being. I'm ready to run and go. And I just usually, it's like hitting a wall of thick fog, and you just stop because no one is doing anything. Everyone's sluggish and slow and blah, and they don't give a shit. This year, it started back in December, and we're hitting January 2nd when this is being broadcast. Everyone is coming out of the gate running. The stock market's in trouble. Every day we've had since Steve Mnuchin met via phone while he was in Mexico on Christmas vacation, meeting with the 6 CEOs of the 6 biggest banks in the country. Since then, we've seen the plunge protection team, which has now been outed by name, by the mainstream press. Plunge protection team, which is supposed to protect the stock market, which should be valued at 50% of GDP, but Pento says is valued at 150% of GDP. It's actually become our economy. We're coming right out the gate with nothing but trouble. Everyone's scared to death. The markets are scared, like you're saying. Their faces, they look like they seen a ghost. They whistling past the graveyard and scared to death. And here they come. And we've got Democrats roiled and pissed off. We've got patriots. Either they believe that Trump is going to indict everyone tomorrow, or we're pulling back, going, if he hasn't done it yet, it's probably not going to happen. We're going to keep our powder dry and just watch. And here we go, 2019. It's coming.
Right. Yeah. I mean, very interesting. You brought up that point about the plunge protection team. You can officially remove your tinfoil hat and retire it. This is all, you used to be laughed at. Oh, they aren't doing that, right? And it's all a part of normalizing centrally controlled economy.
Well said. Yeah.
And here's another quick retail fact for you. Another thing that came out. We set a new record this year on returns, retail returns before they were even gifted.
No shit.
We're at an all-time high. So this is another, these are psychological indicators on the street that the 0.001% can never dare to acknowledge or look at. But these are real things. I mean, if that isn't a sentiment indicator, I don't know what is.
I think what happened there was people did some of their Christmas shopping, and then we had that GM announcement. And then we started seeing the market ticking down, and people probably thought, you know what? I don't need that TV. I don't need it. I don't need that set of Naga hide car seat covers. And they started taking some stuff back that just wasn't needed. And that's fascinating.
Yeah, I thought it was too, and quite an indicator. Uh, so where do we go from here, John? What happens? What does the hangover look like?
Oh, I think the hangover is followed by grabbing a Bloody Mary and just adding more alcohol, right? To neutralize the hangover, right?
Okay, all right.
Just stay drunk. What's going to happen? The plunge protection team has been using money from the exchange stabilization fund, which is another term. They're going to keep pumping money into the stock market, trying to keep it look good. The same way an alcoholic just keeps slamming those Bloody Marys and says, fuck it, let's keep going with it. They're going to do that and keep trying to keep the economy up while the illusion can be maintained, because they do not want panic. Panic is bad. You know what happens in a panic. The stock market falls not 500 points in a day, but 2,000 points, 3,000 points. Is very possible because of the extremely high number we're at. It's possible. So they don't want it to happen. They want to keep everyone juiced. They want to keep the positive stories, but it's not quite coming out right when you listen to the news. They're starting to talk about the need to go to safe haven. Now, the reason this is so important, this isn't an economic channel. This is a shit it's the fan channel. But the trickle down effect of wealth takes a while for the rich guy to go, geez, I got some extra cash. I'm going to expand the business. We're going to create some new research and development. We're going to give some raises out. And then for that money to trickle down, the good old trickle down economics, it takes a while. But when something goes wrong, it takes about half a fucking day to go lay off 1,000 people, cut that product line over there, tighten the belts, cut off all non-essential business, and people lose their jobs fast. It takes a while to trickle down good, but it doesn't take any time at all for shit to roll downhill. And that is a bad scene for the average American. So that's why the economic news is so critical to watch as preppers and just regular Joes. I mean, you know, what do I need? Not much.
Well, and the majority of people in the country are not even exposed to the stock market. But if you learn to use that as a thermometer on sentiment, and also watch what the bastards are doing, because and this is something you and I go back and forth on quite often. You know, I have some hedges in precious metals. I think most preppers do. So my old belief was stock market goes down, gold would always go up, right? I mean, it was a counterbalancing thing. I'm going to propose that in this managed economy and in the situation we're in now, that will not be the case. And that doesn't mean that gold is going to go down in my book. And this is just one scenario here. But after reading some Fed figures about how much revenue comes from the capital gains of the stock market, the buying and selling and the traders, and they pay a lot. You know, you buy here and sell here, you're going to give up right away like 20-25% of that to the government. So it's got to be a nice swing, and you got to have enough money in and all that. I'm not a trader. I used to be, but it's very, you know, and you have to have a certain volume to even file your taxes as a frequent trader, or even get frequent trader status at E-Trade or Ameritrade or anything like that. But anyway, here's a potential scenario. One potential scenario is that in a highly inflationary, debt-fueled environment, the GDP can be extremely high. The market could go to 30 or 40,000.
Talking about the Dow points.
The Dow, right? The Dow could go to 30 or 40,000. I was thinking the Dow as the 30 as the main indicator, and precious metals, due to the dilution and devaluation of the dollar, could also be going up. we're in a situation. I mean, when gold was part of our money, of course, whenever markets were down, gold would go up. It was a great balancing factor. But 200 currencies around the world, not backed by a damn thing. And because the Dow is such a psychological thermostat for people, even Trump owned it. Like, look at the market, look at what I did. Everybody's pushing it in your face every day. Because it is such an indicator, my theory is that they will let the dollar devalue to a great extent in favor of keeping that market up. 20% of federal revenues come from capital gains from the market. And then another large percentage comes from the housing market. So I wouldn't be surprised if they lower rates, and I think I'm not the only one saying that, but they'll lower rates and keep home values up.
Mm-hmm. Well, the downshot, I think the Fed, the president, the government, everybody has locked themselves in a corner, and they cannot come out of that corner. They've got to fight from it, and they've got nowhere to go. As soon as they do that, as soon as they pump the market up with liquidity, we're going to see inflation right behind that. And that inflation, it's because in order to create that velocity in the market, that increased value, that's a hyperinflation or an inflationary scenario that this country hasn't seen since the early 70s and the mid 70s, when we started seeing 12%, 15% inflation annually. Unless wages rise in equivalent percentages, people are going to discover their dollars aren't going very far at all. They're going to feel it. The Dow is up, and there's that thermometer trying to keep them calm. The doctor telling you your temperature's fine. In the meantime, your wallet is drying up fast. If you had a little bit of disposable income, you'll have none. And if you start with none, which is where a lot of Americans are, they don't have $500 in case they get a flat tire. They don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, basically. And you take away 10% of what they don't have, they're going to start going without. And if you want to talk about a reason to see people on the streets in this country, when the EBT people, when they've got full EBT benefits and they still can't feed their kids or put shoes on their kids or buy a bottle of Wild Turkey 101 for themselves.
Not even that.
They can't afford that Mad Dog 2020. They're going to be really pissed off. And it was interesting just this last weekend. If it wasn't the first, it's one of the first yellow vest protests here in the United States of America. I covered it in Monday's video. It was patriots doing the yellow vest, and they wanted to talk about, right-wing, pro-liberty, pro-freedom, that sort of thing. But it could very quickly be co-opted, the yellow vest, over to the left. Everyone could put on yellow vests and go out and fight with each other in the streets. And that's what you're absolutely right. They could pump the market up, make it look good, but people are going to feel it in a different way. So you either let the market go down and people are scared, or the market goes up and people get scared because they don't have any money or the money doesn't purchase. And so it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, they are in a box that I wish I wasn't in right along with them, but they are in a box. They're damned if they do and damned if they don't. The actual strategy and the way it plays out, either way, I think leads toward solid investments like good real estate, hard assets, whether it's income producing property or at the very least gold and silver. And gold and silver miraculously is starting to actually be talked about among the talking heads. But I think we'll probably spend too much time on the economy. It's all speculation right now. But you brought up, you said people in the streets, and one of my talking points that I thought we could hit on would be civil unrest. And I'm curious to know, with France bracing for another weekend of protests, what do you see civilly and outwardly, outward signs on the streets of the U.S. this year?
I think that there's frustration in every quarter. I'm frustrated with the left because I'm a liberty person. I'm frustrated with the government. I'm frustrated with the Fed, state, the local people. I'm frustrated with the quality of life that I see for Americans. That's my frustration. And when I see someone or hear someone opposing that, I really, Chris, want to jump down their throat. And so, just that's me. Now, what I see from other people is similar thoughts and behavior. They're pissed off at the government. They're pissed off at the left. And I see people on the left. They are frustrated as hell, and they're blaming Trump. And then on the street, when we see protests, the people on the street, they're taking it out on everyday citizens. Let's use Portland because it's such a great example. It was so well covered. The left-wing lunatics up there are being allowed by the police to run rampant. They're pulling people out of their cars. They're beating on cars. They're shouting at people. And that old guy that just drove by in that Lexus has nothing to do with the cause of the hardships that those Democrats are feeling. In fact, maybe if they would actually get a job and stop smoking so much weed and blaming everyone else for their problems and take responsibility, we might be doing a little better if people would work harder. I work pretty fucking hard, I think. And that's what keeps a small roof over my head. But I don't think a lot of people do that. The people on the left, on the street, the ones that are angry, that's 4 or 5 guys living in an apartment, and they're pissed off. And so they're itching for a fight. Social unrest, people are itching for a fight. It's indicative in Europe. They're pissed off at their leaders. At least over there, they're pissed at the right people. Over here, the left is only pissed at Trump, and the right is pissed at I don't know who you're pissed at, but anybody who pushes socialism, I think, needs to have their head examined.
Well, the list of people I'm pissed off just is like, I stopped even writing it down. It's gone off the chart. But exactly what you're saying. I mean, unfortunately, Europe, they're mad because they're mad at the government, but only because the government isn't handing them more things. Here, they're mad at corporations and businesses because we're all greedy, grubbing, capitalists, and we just won't elect the people that want to give them free stuff. So anyway, I mean, I see socialism coming. I understand the frustration, however, and unfortunately, there was a couple of really crazy videos this week. One about a guy that just walked into a vape shop with a Make America Great hat on. He just wanted to buy some vapor for his habit or whatever. And then there was another one where a transgender walked into a 7-Eleven and they accidentally got, somebody said, "I'm waiting, I'll be right with you, sir." And he went nuts. But the thing is that, and I forget exactly how Gerald Celente says it, but when people have nothing to lose, they lose it. And unfortunately, people of a certain generation or group in our country, they really don't have much to lose. They don't have that much skin in the game. And the people that are paying the taxes, which I know you and all your listeners are, we're too freaking busy working and taking, making sure that we keep our jobs and being productive and things like that. We're too busy to hit the streets, but there's lots of people to hit the streets when the calling comes, and some of them are paid as well.
Yeah. The the youth tend to take to the streets, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. They don't have the jobs. They've got a lot more energy, a lot more concern, and they're willing to fight physically. So that's why we saw the Proud Boys in Portland versus the Antifa communists from college. The difference between Europe, which is breaking into greater and greater conflict and it's spreading, and the United States of America, is the proliferation of firearms in America. Typically, I say weapons, if everyone was armed, we'd all be better neighbors because we all know each other's armed.
Very polite.
That works. Yeah, polite, good neighbors. The problem is that it also requires a great deal of responsibility and intelligence. And I think that is where we're lacking in this potential shit hits the fan conflict that's brewing now. And whether or not we're going to get a really tasty beer or whether we're going to get a pot of vinegar from the brew, you know, we could end up with a lot of foul, bitter vinegar come springtime when the economy doesn't take off, when the stock market tumbles a lot more, when there's no jobs to be had, when there's more political consternation, you know, either more roadblocks and gridlock, or let's just say Trump says fuck it and he starts indicting, he unseals indictments, the Justice Department starts convicting or arresting people. It doesn't matter if Hillary Clinton's a criminal and she's been arrested, rightfully so. But the perception, because perception's reality, thank you, Lee Atwater, because perception is their reality on the left, they're going to see that as a illegitimate attack by an illegitimate President Trump,
sure,
who is a fascist like Hitler, and it's time for them to get even more violent. And I see violence begetting violence.
Yeah, if you want to know who Trump is, just ask the mainstream media. Watch law enforcement stand back as they beat your grandmother's ass. You know you're empowered, you're emboldened because you know you're in the right because they're letting you do it.
Right. So that's what I see coming. I see it. It's a socio-political, economic trifecta of shit coming our way this year. There is a little bit of legalness in here if we want to throw that in real quick. Ruth Bader Ginsburg may retire, may fall down again. I don't think they can do the Stephen Hawking's computer voice with a dead person in a chair. They can try it, but I think someone may check her pulse. She may end up retiring, and that means Trump will be picking a third Supreme Court justice, and that'll be unprecedented. That would cause the left to lose their minds, more trouble socially that way. So we've got a lot coming this year, starting right today, starting Wednesday, January 2nd, right out the gate, full speed ahead. There might be some jockeying for position to see who's going to take the lead and who's going to throw the most punches, but we're going to start out really fast, Chris. So that's how I see it coming. And those are the main factors I think we've covered: the economy, politics, and on the street social behavior.
Well, I think you covered that part of it really well. The only thing I would add is they're definitely going to be selecting another Supreme Court nominee because Lifetime Channel or whatever already just aired Ruth Bader Ginsburg's biopic. So I know that, it's only a short time after they glorify your previous accomplishments before you check out. So.
All right. Sorry about that. My phone call came through and it messed up my sound.
It came back. You're good.
Okay. Very good. So they did a bio on Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, they did a bio on her, and God help me if I ever see my biopic on TV, because I'll immediately call the crematorium and make. Are you back?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but your video is not on.
Okay, 1 second. Here I come.
There you are.
Okay. We're all set. had to pour another glass of Glenlivet. Yeah, this is where we're at. This is how we're starting 2019. This is what I see coming. I recommend everyone start with food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Get a plan. And if you got money after that, I might recommend looking around to find the best place to put it, because this happens every time there is a market slowdown and a recession. All the signs and indicators are in place. The cards are falling. In fact, a couple of days ago, I did a video where I said, I'm claiming victory on my prediction of the economy crashing. Without the plunge protection team, it would have done its big move, except they've pumped it full of cash. We had our big correction last February in 2018. And I said, you got 6 to 18 months before they crash the economy, or before it crashes. They're now propping it up with sticks and toothpicks and I don't know, water balloons. You know, they're just waiting to pop again.
Well, I think from a as a prepper myself, I'm not going to discount a lot of civil unrest in 2019, but I really think they hold their big guns until 2020 before the election. For the things that really cause you, well, maybe not you, but well, yeah, you too. I mean, I'm in a big city where supply chains can be interrupted with devastating results. There's only so many ways in, so many ways out.
Right.
Power can be compromised. You know, everybody is stuck in one place with no services, and you know, in case people don't know it, if you're not on the first floor, your toilet is powered by a pump that uses electricity. So there's a lot of things that can happen in a big city. But even on the outskirts, if you're in California, what if a major city near you has, you know, everybody's in a panic? How long is it going to take for them to say, okay, there's only so much food, we got to send it somewhere. Are we going to send it to BFE, or are we going to send it to LA?
Send it to LA.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do think that they'll hold the big guns till 2020. I think 2019 is more incremental indoctrination, more incrementalism with control of whether it's guns or money or whatever we have. They have a window too. They have a budget too. They have a plan too.
Yes, they do.
If you don't think they've got a plan, then you're not preparing in a well-rounded way. You got to know what the enemy's doing.
Yeah. Now, the government, nothing happens without government permission, and that includes an economic crash. That includes shit hitting the fan. They will be aware of it and ready for it, and they will execute ahead of time. And so all we can do as people is have those necessities on hand. People in the city, I think they're going to see shit hitting the fan in a more aggressive manner than out in the rural areas, further away from the cities. But it's going to be quite the spectacle. There's going to be, I predict for 2019, shit hits the fan, hot spots at the very least. Compton's on fire. South Chicago's on fire. Good thing you're not in South Chicago. You know, I always like to pick on Atlanta for no particular reason other than, you know, Ted. But, you know, Atlanta going up. Washington, D.C. There's going to be problems in the major cities. That doesn't mean that can't happen in other places, but the cities are definitely focal points of energy and stress and tension. For example, Portland. You would normally think, well, it's an upper Northwest town where they drink a lot of coffee. They should be fine. No, it's a town full of assholes, and they're at each other's throats. And one of the things that scares me, and I'll bring this up, I know we're going to have to call this quits here, Mr. Chris. Portland is an interesting example of the police having a leftist-leaning mentality and allowing the left-wing lunatics to run loose much like the Hitler Youth or the brown shirts of Nazi Germany, when the police or the government allowed these youth to run rampant because they were the most radical, the most energized, who had nothing to lose, and they went out and punished everyone that they could, breaking windows, whether it was Jews or gypsies or people who were not part of the Reich, they went after them. And I think that that's a potential in the cities. Again, the big difference. This is America, Jack, and the people have firearms, and not just the bad guys. The good guys have them, and that really lays the groundwork for some interesting conflicts.
Yeah.
If we have the opportunity to watch it without being involved, we're in for a hell of a show. But we may, be watching this on TV, look out the window and see a bunch of assholes that need special attention. So you've got to be ready, got to have a plan, and boy, it's going to be an interesting year. Yeah. At the very least, it'll be very interesting. At worst, it's going to be extremely difficult and frustrating if you haven't properly prepared with food and water and to take care of yourself and family in times of need. We could have serious government shutdowns where the police, there's no city budget because there's no state budget, because there's no federal budget. It could roll downhill. Cities could not have budgets, and they could cut police department hours, and we could have idiots walking the street thinking it's lawlessness, when in fact we're all in charge of the law. In all truth, we have a duty and a responsibility to maintain civilization as individuals. And by golly, someone else brought up another point. If shit hits the fan, the police will not want to stay in uniform because they don't want to get shot by everybody that wants to shoot them. So don't expect a lot of help except in those areas where the police have a stranglehold. And we don't know how it'll play out. It's going to be one hell of a fucking show, that's for sure.
And that's too bad, because when the police that you know and love and admire start to back off, retire, it's happening all the time here in Chicago. People are quitting and saying they can't take it anymore, or going somewhere else. Unfortunately, that leaves behind the kind of police that you could observe. And there was a couple of great YouTube videos on Venezuela came out this weekend, documentaries. They can't trust their police. The police are in on every scam. They're working with the local gangs to shake people down, to imprison people. When law enforcement finally turns, law enforcement will not be the ones you want to call when there's trouble.
Yeah, in my city, I live in a smaller city, smaller area. The police that are the good guys that I know, they have told me, John, I'm bugging out because you don't want to wear a badge. It's almost like a bullseye. And they're going to get out, and that's going to leave the ding-dongs and other people. But in areas where there's less guns and more authoritarianism, the police will. And it's been, you just cited Venezuela, which is a superb example of what happens when the police are not checked by a constitution or other citizenry that would say, there's enough of that. Stop. You're done. We've got guns too. And they go rogue. The whole system can fall on its face. And again, that is in itself its own style of shit-hitting the fan. The totalitarian local warlords that scare the people to death and just screw them over. And by golly, that is shit hits the fan. I think any time that you feel helpless, you're in that type of scenario.
So, John, if you had if you could condense your image of what 2019 looks like, how would you phrase that?
That's an awesome question. I feel like you're interviewing me. If I were to describe what I foresee 2019 is, it's putting on a blindfold. Now, let's do this. You're walked into a room, they shut off the lights, and you start hearing sounds and flashings of light that scare the shit out of you. And every now and then something bumps into you, and you don't know if you're going to die, if it's going to get better, if the lights are going to come on. You're not killed, you're not dead, but you sure think it could happen anytime now. That's what I see 2019 as. It's going to be some bumpy moments. We're not going to know what's going on. We're going to get some indicators, some clues, but it's just going to be scary. How's that? And let me pose the same question to you. Describe it, Chris. What is 2019 like?
Well, to me, 2019 is has a strange relationship to 1929. I think that 2019, is a year when you'll be really glad that you've tuned into the Prepared Mind. I'm not just blowing smoke up your skirt, but I'm saying you enlightened me quite a bit to a bunch of realities. And it's really been over the last year that I'm like, man, I can't argue with this guy on any of these points. And he doesn't know when, I don't know when, but I can sure see the end point of this. And I see 2019 in a similar way you do, where major cracks start to be revealed. The people in control start to get more desperate and show that they have less control, where people start to internalize, where should I be living? People start thinking, how should I be prepared? So myself and a lot of people that tune into this channel are already prepared to an extent, but I do see more and more reason to look at this as a crescendo of incrementalism, getting to the point, getting for the preparation for this 2020 major SHTF in our country.
Right. Well said. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Well done. Yeah, it's hard to argue because, this is why I started doing the weekly wrap-ups a while back. Is every week I started looking for examples of things getting better, Chris, and they weren't. And I was like, fuck, now I got to talk about this once a week. That's where we're at. This is where we're heading. Things are going to bump us, and it's going to get dark. And by dark, I mean financially dark, socially dark, information. We're being censored in a way we've never been censored. It's horrifying.
You have no voice. You have no way in. You have, the media is a megaphone for the chaotic left. I'll give one bright potential, and that is that the forces in this country that want any normative language, any normal culture squelched, suppressed, done away with, their messages could get so out there, so crazy, that there could be some kind of backlash that would coalesce those of us on the left and right who believe in a constitutional republic, all the basics that we all grew up with. And the second, so there could be the backlash. Also, if they corner Trump to a certain point, he could blow, he'll publish the naked pictures, and it could really open a lot of eyes at once to what everybody has had done to them over the past 20, 30, 40 years.
Right. That is the slap to the face, right? If you can imagine a domestic dispute situation, and no, I don't want to do that because either it's not a good way to go. All right. Two kids are fighting and they're arguing and bickering, and one of them punches the other one in the face. The one brother hits the other one, and the other brother wakes up and goes, "Holy cow!" Right? It's a awakening moment, and at that point, it can either turn into an all-out brawl, or it could say, "Wait a minute, this is stupid." And I've been waiting for the "this is stupid, I can't fucking believe we've come this far" moment. But you're right, Trump could pull that. It could happen, but it could also go really fucking bad. He could pull those naked pictures, and there could be hell to pay for it. And
yeah, we have to see what Trump is made of. He's disappointed me a lot lately. He's backtracked on a bunch of things. I think right now on the wall, somebody tapped him on the shoulder and said, "By the way,
Mr. President,
you're losing your base here."
Mr. President, right? Hello, right? And he straightened up. But yeah, it's going to be a calamitous year. I'm glad you're with me, Chris. I'm glad you're sharing your ideas. We've got the rest of the R Syndicate crew. I've got more interviews to do with some new people. We've got, we're going to start getting, or I'm going to try and get videos from other prepper channels that they're going to allow me to upload onto my channel, their fortes, their specialties. Some people are into this is how I prep, and this is my food, and this is how I would live. And they have great material also. I want to provide that on this channel. So we've got some cooperation going on in the background. I've got to lean on Jolene to get that worked on a little more. We're going to do a lot more things. I'm expecting more people to remember and go, things are looking screwy out there. Maybe I had to look back into that prepping. And we want to be ready for them. A couple of years ago, my channel grew from 5,000 to 60,000 in 1 year. Since then, we've grown a whopping 7,500 because of the censorship. But I think there's going to be a stampede to what the hell do we do now when the cracks get wider and people start falling through the ice. Yeah. They're going to start getting scared. It's going to be crazy. And I hope you can continue to come back and share your perspective, Chris, because I value it tremendously. Just like other people, they share information. My day is packed with, holy shit, I can't believe I get this many texts, emails, special messages, phone calls, and I happen to have a 40-hour-a-week job. How do I do it all? I don't fucking know, but I'm exhausted now. I'm going to go to bed exhausted. I'll wake up exhausted. It's just what I do. And then every now and then I dream about taking a cruise down to the Caribbean.
Oh, geez, don't get me going on that. I won't be able to work.
Right.
Well, thanks again for having me. And you brought up the other opinion. I mean, I love these guys, Vaughn and Uman and the rest of the R Shirt team.
Right. We got Kaz, but there's a lot of people that want to stay behind the scenes.
Yeah, I understand.
There's a lot of researchers. In fact, it took a long time to get you to come out, but there's a lot more out there, and we're all sharing, and it's wonderful.
Absolutely, and everybody has different perspectives, and it's great. This group is a very rational. You know, we don't flip out if somebody has an opposing view. We all know that everybody on Team Survival is rational and trying, and their hearts are in the right place. So I love hearing everybody's opinion, and I got to tell you, John, you change my opinions every day, and that's a great exercise.
Yeah, it is. I like keeping an open mind and learning. So thank you, Chris. Thank you to everyone on Patreon. We'll see you all tomorrow. Let's see what the hell happens next. It's gonna be entertaining at the least and harrowing and deadly at the worst. It'll be a great 2019. So cheers to everyone. Let's hope we all make it through it and we start to see some light and good things at the end of the tunnel, but be prepared for the worst because chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours.